feed of the... that's a strumpet. King and Queen are now arriving. That is, I just called to say I love you by Stevie Wonder. Oh, hang on.
James O'Brien seems unable to answer the most basic question about the Prime Minister. Is any of this actually his fault, or is he just unlucky? Here's the thing. O'Brien admits he has no idea if Keir Starmer is even laying the foundations he claims to be laying. He can't see them, nobody can, and he's been Prime Minister for months. So watch as O'Brien essentially argues that we all have to just trust the process, while simultaneously telling you that Starmer has no charisma, no passion, and no way to prove progress is happening. Meanwhile, his opponents have all the theatre and all the momentum. This is what Pass the Buck commentary sounds like.
Here comes the news.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 7 minutes after 11 and you are listening to James O'Brien on LBC, whereas you heard in the news bulletin, we will be taking the King's speech live shortly around or shortly after 11:30 this morning, I imagine. Natasha will be joining me just before that to set the scene. I mean, it is the legislative programme for the next Parliament, so there could be a couple of rabbits being pulled out of the policy hat. I don't know. Goodness knows Keir Starmer at the moment needs all the help he can get. And he didn't really announce anything substantive in the speech on Monday morning that was widely regarded as a sort of career-saving intervention. And it didn't work because his career hasn't been saved. He might still be Prime Minister, but we're still talking about how long that situation will sustain. And that leads us to the question we've been asking this morning, which is how much of this mess is his fault? And how much is just evidence of Brexit Britain no longer being a serious country? To be fair, the signs have been there for ages. A country in which Jacob Rees-Mogg could be taken seriously. Before Brexit, nobody would take Jacob Rees-Mogg seriously, except possibly Jacob Rees-Mogg. And I'm not even sure that's true, to be honest with you. I don't think Jacob Rees-Mogg took himself seriously until Brexit came along. And we started, for reasons that I've chronicled tirelessly, treating people who didn't know what they were talking about as equal and opposite equivalents to people who knew what they were talking about. And we're still there now. Starmer, someone who knew what he was talking about, was supposed to stop the madness, or at least some of it, and he hasn't. Is that his fault? Is it because he lacks a very particular set of skills? Or was it an inevitable consequence of the broader context? For the record, if you're just tuning in, I think a lot of it is on him. And my callers so far have been divided with a preponderance leaning towards he couldn't really have done things very differently, which I do disagree with. Wayne is in Kingsbridge in Devon. Wayne, what would you like to say?
I think that you're probably right on both counts. It's a combination of the two, isn't it? He's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. We live in a world now where we can scroll our finger from the bottom of our phone upwards and get the next bit of dopamine hit. It's instant. We can order online. We can get the stuff delivered straight away the next day, in some cases within an hour. We are impatient people now. But he inherited a country where essentially everything was just knocked down to its bare bones. If you take the house analogy, he inherited blank, empty trenches where foundations should be. And he's now supposedly have built those foundations up.
Yes.
And now he's got to do the big job of actually building something on top of those foundations. Yes. And he doesn't have the luxury of doing it in quick time.
No. That's a really interesting analysis, because it hinges on the question, doesn't it, which I can't answer, of whether or not he thinks he is doing a good job of getting those foundations in place, because they're invisible. To take the analogy to Breaking Point, Wayne, you can't see the foundations, so you can't be sure they're there until the big bad wolf comes along and starts huffing and puffing.
Exactly, which is difficult. So he has to now prove that he can get his hands involved, that he can micromanage for a while, which, you know, it's been claimed by many people that he is quite hands-off in his management style and lets his ministers and secretaries of state get on with their job as intended. But he's got a manifesto to deliver, and he doesn't have enough time to do that delivery if he's not careful. And if he has indeed seen off this challenge to his leadership, now is the time where he needs to prove that he is a passionate man, that he can deliver stuff. That stuff's been trained out of him. Barristers do not show huge amounts of passion. They show facts in front of them, and that is that.
Well, some do. So no, that's not true. I mean, it's the only hole I'm going to pick in your analysis so far. But some barristers are very theatrical. I went to see Paul Dacre giving evidence in the latest phone hacking trial, and the barrister who is leading on that is a very theatrical character. David Sherborne, I think his name is. It was a pleasure to watch. It was like being at the theatre, albeit that I don't know what I'm allowed to say legally about. Yeah, I was in the public gallery. Paul Dacre just sat there looking very cowed and small, but the barrister was. But anyway, I digress. I mean, some barristers are very, what's the word I want? Flamboyant. Wait,
okay,
flamboyant.
So perhaps I've worded it a little bit wrong.
Yeah, sorry.
He deals in facts and facts only.
Yes.
And presents the facts only, and sometimes the feelings can get removed when all you're focusing on is the facts.
Yeah, I guess.
And meanwhile, his opponents and the likes of Farage and Polanski, that they all have this way of delivering that excites people one way or another. And we don't get that from Keir. And we don't necessarily need it, but we need to feel like progress is being made at a pace that is what we need.
Yeah, and then the personal crashes headlong into the political, because 15 years ago we didn't need it. We didn't need our politics when David Cameron and Gordon Brown were was it David Cameron and Gordon Brown to start with? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? When one was Prime Minister and one was Leader of the Opposition. There was no love lost between them, but there was no need for dopamine hits or warfare or any of those things. The world felt very different because they were on opposing teams that all agreed what the rules were.
But the rules have changed.
The rules have blown up, mate. The rules have gone.
The Overton window has moved drastically.
Very much.
William Pitt the Younger, his world is totally different to what Boris Johnson and Thatcher had. So we have to move with the times, and politicians need to move somewhat with it and present in a way that is palatable. I see so many people on my social media, particularly on Facebook, calling for him to go. But they're getting the hit from getting angry about something, and they don't really know what they're getting angry about.
And they don't know why they want him to go particularly, or what will be better if he does. It's just get rid of him, yeah. And also, I think social media, and I obviously am a slightly weird person on this front because I've got this job and I don't need the kick of social media to sort of validate myself. But I would if I didn't have this job, and it validates everybody. You can post absolute jibber-jabber on there and get 10 million likes and feel that you're the most brilliant commentator. Some of the stuff I've read over the years about myself, never mind other people, that is so utterly devoid of reality, so utterly removed from reality. But if you get 10,000 likes for it, or even, look, if your life is if you get 10 likes for it, it's more than you've ever got before. 10 likes I got for slagging off James O'Brien. 10 likes I got for slagging off Keith on Twitter. That's incredible. I'm going to do a lot more of that. That lie. And everyone feels like they matter now. And in a way, that should be a good thing. But if people like Elon Musk are rewarding you for lying or for being racist or for being bigoted, then it's obviously not a good thing at all. And I mention that because Wayne leads us into the contemplation of why Keir Starmer is personally so incredibly unpopular. And I think a lot of that has to come from social media. But for me, the best illustration of it comes via Israel, actually, because Keir Starmer is hated by the left for being what they describe as complicit in genocide. And yet he is hated by defenders of Israel's genocide for standing up to it. That is an almost impossible situation for a politician to have found themselves in. There was a march of solidarity for Jewish people in Britain at the weekend, and a lot of the coverage, and again, I don't know whether the coverage was fair, but a lot of the coverage suggested that a huge amount of energy was expended on hating Keir Starmer, on chanting or shouting dislike for, disapproval of, hatred of Keir Starmer. And yet, of course, on the left of British politics, he is, quotes, hated, end quotes, because he has been complicit in the genocide for the people on that side of the fence. So normally I like centrism. It's the politics of compromise. It's the politics of the possible as opposed to the impossible. But sometimes when you find yourself in the centre of a situation, getting abuse from that side and for that side, while they are in complete disagreement with each other, you don't know how much of that is on the person caught in the crossfire from both sides and how much of it is a consequence of the context in which he finds himself. And that's the question that we're asking today. How many of Keir Starmer's problems are Keir Starmer's fault? And how much of the situation in which he finds himself in is down to the situation in which he finds himself in. And you won't find a better example than that. 0345 60 60973 is the number if you want to join in. Let's just have a quick listen to the carriage. That's the House of Lords, where they await the King. Do we have a feed of the... Oh, that's a strumpet. King and Queen are now arriving. That is, I just called to say I love you by Stevie Wonder. Oh, hang on.
So let's be clear about what we're hearing. James O'Brien spent 10 minutes with a caller on air, explaining why Keir Starmer might not actually be responsible for his own unpopularity. Right as Starmer's approval ratings are in freefall and he's losing left and right simultaneously. But here's the part that matters. O'Brien admits he personally thinks a lot of it is on him. That's not nuance. That's having your cake and eating it too. He wants credit for the sophisticated analysis while hedging every single conclusion. And the kicker? He's using Israel, one of the most contentious issues in British politics, as proof that Starmer is in an impossible situation, without actually examining whether the criticisms from either side are even legitimate. That's not centrism. That's surrender dressed up as wisdom. Tell me, if the PM can't prove he's doing anything and we can't see if he's working, and he has no way to inspire confidence, when exactly does give him time become this isn't working? Drop a comment.